This is In the Final Analysis. I'm Jim Yockey.
Welcome to the In the Final Analysis podcast. Here is your host, Jim Yockey, Managing Director of Wisdom Financial, and I am the Media Support Manager, Kylie. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about what we like to call avoiding detours, in which when life gets in the way, maybe of a financial emergency, we're going to talk about ways to kind of weather the storm and hopefully get you through it. Because as we all know and experience, life's journey can come with all sorts of twists and turns and triumphs and challenges. And so when you're planning for your financial future, Jim, could you please speak to maybe what are some ways that people can try to weather the storm that's coming and hopefully avoid detours on their path?
Yes, there are a couple of things about that because it depends on the kind of storm that you're looking at. Some are short-term squalls, and some are much longer term. The brain itself is a storytelling and pattern-seeking instrument that we have, which gives us a way that we want to evaluate the decision that we're trying to make about what to do when confronted with some uncertainties or a change, And as we're talking about money, I would remind you that Monday's not the cause of happiness, okay? And when you make a bad decision, it's not money's fault. The fact is, it's the decision that you have to look at. So I think we talked about that before. So the decision strategy and how much information that you get, which is easy to get these days because you can be anywhere and get overloaded with it. So you have to kind of move that aside as noise. And so once you kind of determine what kind of surf you're in, like if you have a boat and you're trying to navigate whatever is in front of you, sometimes we have small waves, sometimes they're really big waves. So you have to make the first judgment is, okay, what is this? What does it mean to me? Ask the questions, what does it mean to me and what decisions do I need to make about it? Okay. You can start with a topic, is the topic something small? I'm going to the store. What's the list that I have to buy? I'm going to buy a new car. Those are decisions that we have to make that are involving our money as well. Or is it a longer decision? I'm trying to prepare for an eventual retirement or buying my own business, or there's a million things. What colleges to choose? So you have to identify what's the topic. What is it that I'm trying to decide about? And that is different than being surprised with some kind of an incident or a change that initially you have no control over. Okay, I don't want to get off on all of this. Right now, we're going through an introduction that all of our savings and investments can be affected directly and quickly by decisions of governments. This is not the first time we've gone through all of this, by the way. I mean, if you look back to 1929, 1930, the Roosevelts, they had a lot of uncertainties that they had to try to navigate through. So that's just a reality, okay? And a lot of people just don't want to think about it because it's too far out in the future. And you don't have any control over it. And that's not true. The fact of the matter is you do have control. So let's make that as an assumption. We agree that you actually do have a decision that you can make that will address this particular topic. Okay? So it's either a bump in the road or a small wave, but it's there. Okay, so those kinds of decisions, you probably don't want to spend too much time. You want to gather enough information for you to make a prudent decision. Okay, and that means that every decision that we ever make, no matter how small, you have to gather data. And when I said and we gather that information either as a story, something that happened in our past, or something that happened to somebody that you know, a family or friend or something, they went through a similar type of thing. So you're gathering data, or it's a pattern of things. You've seen this before, or others have warned you about this. Like the weather, for example. You go to you go to your phone, or you try to dial in the weather on your streaming. You go to weather streaming, right? To find out, okay, what's the weather going to look like before you decide to do certain other things. You begin to gather data both as a pattern or as a story. And that's how your brain arranges it. So the first thing that you have to do is decide what the topic is and how am I going to look for data. So pretty easy. I'm going to either look for a pattern, or I'm going to find a story that tells me what is something similar to what I'm going through and how did it have an outcome. Okay, so let's say that we bought a big boat. I mean a big boat. And we're going to navigate out there. Well, the first thing that you want to look at is you got to have some kind of a plan of where you're going. You're just going to go putter around, or you're going to go from point A to point B. There's a different decision, okay? Same thing with money, mind you, but we're the captain of this ship, all right? So the first thing we're going to say is, okay, we're going to go from here to there. I'm going to go from LA to Cabo, okay, which is, I'm not sure that's where I would start from, but anyway, the point is that, okay, well, I know we're going to make a 700-mile voyage in our boat. Okay, so the first question is, I know where I am and I know where I'm going. Secondly, then you say, okay, what are the seas going to be like? What's the weather going to be like? How should we prepare for the weather? Okay. So you get out there and you're puttering along and you're going fine and it's sunshiny and the waves are just fine and everybody's having a good time on the boat. And you look off into the future and there are some clouds on the horizon. They start off being white, big fluffy, and you say, oh, well, that's good on the horizon. It's not going to bother us. So you keep moving along on your navigation path. And by the way, I forgot to mention that you should have a compass in there somewhere. Anyway, but so you have a plan, you have a map, and you have some idea of what you're going to experience along the way. The waves are nice, but those clouds start to turn darker. And all of a sudden, the wind starts to blow a little harder. And you think, oh, okay, maybe we need to batten down the hatches here because we're probably going to get rained on. First thing you go back into the captain's cabin and get on the radio and find out what the weather is. Oh, goodness. We have a tropical storm coming our way, or whatever you want to call it. So then you have to understand, how are you going to navigate that storm? The waves start getting bigger because the decisions get bigger, and you're looking for all kinds of things about what's making that wave bigger. Same thing with economies. What's making the misbehavior in the economy? Are we safe? Are our investments safe? And what's really causing this disruption that I see? Is it short term? Is it white clouds, or is it going to be rain clouds, or is it going to be something worse than that? So I'm collecting data all the way, okay? And I'll come back to some of the things that I kind of look at from an economy, but the methodology is the important feature of this this analysis of our financial and life decisions. So the waves start getting bigger. And as you're navigating, they get really big. And so in order to be able to make sure that you have the ability to maintain the boat, control over the boat, then what you naturally should do if you are familiar with sailing or even any kind of boat, really, you want to turn a little bit so that you are facing the wave, and you want to try to go up over the waves so that you stay intact, you stay in control, but you have ferreted a decision about, okay, how big is this wave going to be, and how can I point my bow into it so that I can keep the stability. And it's a lot like economics and us making decisions about the economy and money and longer term investments, or any investments actually. How big's the wave going to be? And as I said earlier, oftentimes these days we have begun to understand that there are things that are beyond our control that we have to either adapt to or change. Okay, so what do you look for? Some of the things I look at to try to figure out what kind of a storm we have coming is I'll look at employment. You know, you can find all of this stuff online, but you can find out anything you want online on your phone, wherever you are, sitting on the couch or whatever. So ask the question, you know, what is unemployment doing? Are people losing jobs or getting jobs? Do we have enough people that are looking for jobs? We have too many people looking for jobs? You know, so does everybody have a job? Because what happens is when everybody has a job, they go spend money, which improves the economy, makes everybody happy, right? Companies included. Sometimes they're happy. But anyway, the point is that are people employed and working? That is the first indication that things are probably okay. I would caution you, however, to think about the fact that you're looking at the future. And nobody can predict the future, but you can get some idea of what it might do. So keep your eyes on the wave. If it starts getting bigger because people are getting laid off, companies are not selling as much, which is the second thing I look at. They call it revenue. All it is what were my sales last quarter or last year or last month or last week. You know, you can find any of that information. So employment and revenues for companies. So people have jobs, they spend money, companies have sales, and they prosper, okay? Or not, depending on the size of the wave both of you are facing. Another little tidbit about that is, I don't know that this necessarily helps you predict the future, but I have something called a mall parking lot indicator. Okay.
And what is that?
Yeah, it doesn't tell you much about the future, but it sure tells you whether or not people are at the malls shopping. Whether they're buying stuff or not, we don't know, but there are a whole lot of people there. You know, once in a while you have to ask yourself, where don't you guys have a home? There's not a parking space at all in this mall. But that tells you that people at least have one of two things that they're thinking about. Either they're afraid they're going to miss out on something, you know, and so they need to go buy now, or they're happy and they're going shopping because that's what you do. You go buy stuff, all right? So the parking lot gives you some idea of activity, not necessarily what the outcome is, but certainly it's telling you how people are feeling about things one way or another. And you can pretty much judge whether it's good or bad by what happens in, you know, in just general conversation around. Or the news media will lead you down a wrong path because it never tells you anything good. It only tells you things that are bad. So watching the news you ought to, temper that a little bit. But so you start gathering data in little ways. Employment, are companies making money? Are people hiring? Are people graduating from college and getting jobs right away? What industries are actually working? Some of them, are we selling automobiles or we're not? So there are a lot of things that we know. Little things, for example, if Easter's coming up, the malls are going to be full because everybody's buying their Easter stuff, or graduation stuff, or so you have little things in your own community that can help you begin to format a basic plan, to look forward to. So managing. I may have said this before did I say this before about the three things that Thomas Aquinas said? Anyway,
It's worth repeating if we.
worth repeating. Okay. Well, it said there are three things in life that matter. That's what you desire, what you believe, and what you have to do. So we're kind of testing those because you have those three things that are part of your decision strategies. And so in any event, I'm going to turn that off so we're not bothered with that. Indeed, we have three more little things to look at. What do we really want? What do we have to do about it? Is it a desire? Is it really a desire, a want, or maybe? Can I do with it or do without it? Then the other thing about all of gathering information too, when you think about it, and that concept that we're looking for patterns and we're looking for storytelling, decisions are conducted by what you know, what you don't know, what you don't know that you don't know, and you don't know what's hidden. Okay, so there are some of those things that you have to take into consideration. It's not to say that you need to get bogged down in trying to answer those things, but it is required for you to understand that those things do exist. There's, why is the government doing certain things? Why is it that this is selling and that's not? Why is it that the markets, whatever markets you're going to look at, are going up or down? What's the relationship between the economy and the markets? What's the relationship between the bond market and the stock market? I mean, it could drive you crazy, okay? But just remember that there are things that you do know, things that you think you know, things that you really don't know that you don't know, and what do you do about all of that? So don't get wrapped up in it, but remember that you're trying to figure out what you want, what you desire, and what you believe and what you want to do about any of those things. So there's some commonality in there, and there are some small things that you could look, depending on the size of what you're facing. Uncertainty is all over. I mean, it's one of the principles of life, I think, too. So understand that you're going to be uncertain even when you've made a decision. Like I said earlier, you might think, oh man, I made the wrong decision, which it actually turns out to be the right decision, or the other thing can happen too. So anyway, it's being prepared. It's having your nose in the right direction for the, your bow in the right direction, so that you don't get swamped by the wave of whatever is coming your direction, and then you'll be prepared. Not only that, but you'll have learned how to navigate in those particular waters too. Because if you survived and it was something big, hey, I can do this. So
Yeah.
I hope that was a long answer to a short question, but hope that helps.
No, yes, thank you. Yeah, that was an excellent explanation of, you know, how you can help yourself get ready to weather storms on the economic horizon, for your personal journey with your finances and your life. And thank you for explaining the signs that you look out for when there is maybe a storm coming. Um, those are things that you can try to predict when it comes to, say, a financial emergency, a very sudden whirlpool in the waters, if you will, to dip a toe into your metaphor. Um, how are some ways that people can try not to react in a way that will be detrimental to what they planned for? Because, as you said, there's so much uncertainty and feelings of lack of control can be so overwhelming. Um, so when something happens all of a sudden, how would you say that they could react in a way that would be helpful to continue on their journey? And is that any different than how you would react on the professional side as an advisor?
Okay, let's take for let's using the same metaphor that we've been launched into. So
That we've set sail on.
let's take just the financial part of things for a couple minutes, and then some things you can be prepared for, some things you can't. Okay, but you need to be prudent about determining what those discomforts are or are about to be. And so you look at the size of what you're looking at, near term or midline, long term. But when it comes to financial things, there are a multiplicity of things that you can do to set aside money for certain things. That oftentimes gets, like for example, you're putting aside money for college for your children or your grandchildren or something, and so you put away money, whether it's in a 529 plan or in the bank or whatever, and they decide they don't want to go to college. They want to go to tech school, or they want to go to the Bahamas and, forget about the whole thing. So you never know what the future is going to bring. But when you prepare yourself for things like that, just recognize that these buckets are intents. Okay, they're not decisions. It's a decision to put it in to satisfy an intent to do something. Retirement is an intent. Okay, and each one of those, with that direction, gives you an idea of how maybe you should be invested. And my mantra is, anytime that you're going to invest your money or your family's money, anytime that you're making investments that you're going to hold for a while, whether that's a short while, medium, or long term, you want to try to build in either off ramps to protect you, so that you're not getting there as fast or you get afraid. Now, that doesn't mean that you should act on those, but you're just building in the off ramps, or I'm not sure how to, from a naval point of view, one port versus another, so you can get off. So that doesn't mean that you're going to use them, but you know that you built something into your plan so that if it's not going the way you want, you have a way to change directions, or go, be a landlubber for a little while. Okay, that's that one in there. And okay, so the first thing is you have an intent, and you have a decision to fund that particular intent. Then you have, I always try to build in some kind of I'm going after a lot of growth over a period of time. What's the period of time? I'm going for a longer term. You might want more than just an off ramp or a port. You might want to build in growth and protection at the same time. And we've talked about that, I think, is a good prudent attitude to take toward investing. What I'm going to invest, and I'm going to take some kind of a risk, but my intent is to do this. Okay, if your intent is to do that, what happens if that intent is becoming more difficult to achieve? What am I going to do? And if you always build in at the beginning, okay, I need to build in some protection because I'm willing to take this amount of let's say, risk. And believe me, there is a multitude of ways that you can build in protection. Some people call it diversification. I don't think that that's as important these days, but there are other things that you can do in order to achieve that, including, getting, abandoning ship on that initiative and trying something else. So you build in flexibility in those intents, and protection with growth is a good combination to look at, one way or another. So making a plan, first of all, is acknowledging that you have an issue, acknowledging that you have a plan, acknowledging that you have a reasonable amount of data to make a decision based upon the intent of what you're trying to do. Surprises happen. But if you build whatever you're doing with an idea for achieving that, and always have some kind of an off-ramp or some kind of safety net underneath you, then your likelihood of not making a decision too quick, and always knowing that you do have built into the decision for that intent, you have built into the decision a way to moderate any risks that you're taking at that moment, including taking an off-ramp. So I think you need to build your decisions to achieve certain intents, always with a way to change directions. Just like, if you're going up and you hit the, you go through a really significant wave, you have had the bow into the wave, and you get over to the other side, and you didn't get flipped over or something, and on the other side, the wind dies down, the clouds go away. Okay, so now that you have done that, then you can get back to the direction that you wanted in the first place, or choose to do something different. But you always have your nose into the wind, just like flying an airplane too. If you want to land an airplane or take it off, you're going to do it in the wind, not in a crosswind. Same thing at navigating in the ocean as well. Same thing navigating in life. And if we just spend a little bit of time to identify, gather data, make a decision, and build in alternatives, your life's going to be a whole lot smoother. It just will.
No, thank you. Yeah. We are big believers in pack your life jackets and make sure your dinghy's hooked on.
There you go. There you go.
And then, maybe you also have an advisor in your pocket as your compass to help you get back on track.
Yeah, that would be helpful, but it's got to be the right one.
Yes.
You got, because that involves a lot of trust decision. So if you have something and you need help with it, do your data first, collect your data. And then, because every time you make a decision like that of choosing somebody to trust is a whole new topic. And we probably will talk about that in future podcasts, I'm sure. But the reality is everything about trust comes from within. Sure, it's experiential, but it is chock full of emotions.
Yes.
You're making it based upon your assumption that things are going to turn out good. And that person is the one that's going to help you. Well, you better be able to have candid conversations with that person, understand where they're coming from, and understand where you're going. And so trust is a big thing there. That's that's a whole different topic in terms of trust between you and someone that's advising you about your money, because your money's precious, and
So
it's
true.
only precious to you. If you have an advisor that thinks it's his money or her money, wrong one. Pick another.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's your ship, it's your journey. We're just here to help. We are not here to turn your ship for you.
Yes. Unbelievable. Absolutely right.
Right. Well, yes, you are right. We will absolutely get deeper into trust and the advisor and client relationship in another episode. For today, if you'd like to learn more about some of the storm that we might be in right now, we do have a new white paper on our website, Time for Tariff Truths, that is updated through the beginning of April 2025. And you can find that on our website at www.wisdomchoice.net, as well as lots of other resources for detours and other unexpected journeys that you could face in your life in our lifestyle section of our financial intelligence resources. Again, all of that can be found at www.wisdomchoice.net.
And in the final
In
analysis,
the final analysis,
we have built our website, and Kylie is enormously helpful and thoughtful about what we do and do not do on our website. The fact that we built it for your education, and we have so many videos and so many white papers that help you come to conclusions for yourself, or to verify a plan that you might have, or to help you make a plan. All of those things you're not going to get if you go to our website. You can volunteer to get on our mailing list, and we have videos and things that will come to you before we actually put them onto the website. But the truth of the matter is, it's for your education. We care about you. Whether we ever do business together is not a factor. It's how well you live your life and how well we can help you.
absolutely. As we say on the website, wisdom cares. We are
Got it.
here for you if you want us, and we are here for you whether you just want to take a look through. All right. Thank you all so much for listening today. Again, as Jim said, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website, as well as listen to more episodes of In the Final Analysis through our special news tab. And we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professionals before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Wisdom Financial Management, LLC are not affiliated.